Commander Grant Avery never expected his day to start with a spaceship crash. He was standing on the icy plains of Enceladus, one of Saturn's frozen moons, watching workers weld metal plates onto a new mining dome. The colony was small. Only 200 people lived there, but it was the hope of Earth's future. The ice held fuel and rare minerals the home planet needed badly. Grant checked his wrist screen. The temperature outside was minus 180 degrees Celsius. The workers moved slowly in thick thermal suits. Their breath turned to white mist inside their helmet visors. Suddenly, an alarm blared through his headset. A shrill voice came through. "Commander Avery, we have incoming. A known ship. It's not ours." Grant turned his eyes to the sky. The thin atmosphere showed stars even during the day. Now, a bright light streaked across the blackness like a burning arrow. He narrowed his eyes. The object came closer and closer, growing larger. The tail of fire behind it glowed blue, then red, then white. It wasn't slowing down. He pressed his comm link. "Get the workers inside the dome. Activate the defense grid now." Inside the colony, warning lights flashed red. Huge metal shutters slid down over the dome's windows. Robotic turrets popped up from the snow, turning toward the sky. But Grant knew they wouldn't help much. Their small cannons were made to scare off pirates, not fight something truly alien. The ship roared overhead, so close he could see strange markings on its silver hull. Then it hit the icy ground beyond the mining rigs with a deep, bone-shaking boom. A wave of snow and steam washed over the colony walls. For a moment, there was silence. Only the hiss of cooling metal and the soft crack of shifting ice filled the air. Grant didn't wait. He pulled his helmet visor down and stepped outside the shielded gate with a squad of 4 security officers. They held railguns, weapons that fired tiny metal slugs at high speed. Good against raiders, but would they work on what was inside that ship? No one knew. They trudged through the snow toward the smoking wreck. The ship had dug a long trench in the ice before it finally stopped. The hull was scratched and partly melted, but its shape was clear. It was like a silver insect, with wings folded tight against its sides and a long, needle-like nose. "No human ship looked like that, Commander," said Private Ellis, the youngest of the security team, his voice shaking. "What if they're hostile?" Grant didn't answer. He just raised a hand, telling them to spread out. The wind howled. Round them, steam rose from the cracked metal. Then, with a loud hiss, a hatch on the side of the ship opened. A ramp lowered slowly, creaking under the weight of the cold. A shape appeared in the darkness. First came a shadow, tall, thin, with strange limbs and a crown like crest on its head. The humans raised their weapons, but the figure stepped into the weak sunlight, and for a second, everyone just stared. It was a queen, an alien queen. Her body was covered in smooth, dark green plates, like armor made by nature itself. She had 4 arms. 2 were slender and folded against her chest. The other 2 were larger and stronger, hanging at her sides. Her eyes were bright gold, like molten metal, and they watched every human in front of her. She was not empty-handed. In her lower right hand, she held a sword, a long, straight blade, clearly human-made. It was old and scratched, but its steel still shone. The sight was so strange that even the security team lowered their guns for a moment. The queen stepped forward. Her feet crunched on the icy ground. She stopped just a few steps away from Commander Avery. The wind pulled at her cloak, a torn piece of dark cloth that barely covered her shoulders. Then, something no one expected happened. The queen slowly bent her knees. She lowered herself down until she was kneeling in front of the human commander. Avery felt his breath catch in his throat. He had expected a fight, maybe a demand, maybe death. But not this. One of her smaller arms moved carefully, as if she did not want to frighten him. She pointed the sword forward. Its tip touched the ice between them. She opened her mouth, and a strange, clicking sound came out first. Then, in rough, broken English, she spoke. "Grant Avery," she said. His name sounded strange in her voice. "Human leader. I come. Not to fight." Avery exchanged glances with Ellis. No one moved. The alien queen slowly lifted the sword higher, offering the hilt toward him. "Show me," she said. Her voice was soft, but the words were clear. "Show me how to use it." The wind dropped for a moment. It was so quiet that Avery could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. He took one step forward. The security officers raised their guns again, unsure what to do. "Why?" Avery asked, his voice low but steady. "Who are you?" "The Queen's." Golden eyes never left his. She drew herself up a little, though still kneeling. "I'm Queen Scifi," she said, "last ruler of Scifi Dominion. My people betrayed me. My generals took my throne. I run. I hide." She lifted the sword again, just enough that he could see the scratches on the blade. An old Earth military symbol was etched near. The hilt, a relic, maybe stolen, maybe traded. No one knew. "Humans fight with this," she said. She touched the blade gently, careful not to cut herself. "Long ago, humans small, weak, but win many wars. Stories say, human blade never bends. Human heart never breaks. I want this strength." She looked down. Snow settled on her shoulders. The wind howled again, but she stayed still. "Teach me, please." For a moment, no one spoke. The security team looked at their commander, waiting for his order. Grant Avery stared at the kneeling alien queen, the strange sword, and the silent, empty sky above. He had come to Enceladus to mine ice and fuel, not to train alien royalty, not to get pulled into an interstellar war. But as he looked into Scifi's eyes, he saw something he recognized. The same fire he had seen in human soldiers when all hope seemed lost. Slowly, carefully, Avery reached out and took the sword from her hand. It was cold, but the steel felt alive in his grip. He turned it once, testing the balance. The queen watched him closely, her eyes never blinking. He lowered the blade and looked at her. "All right," Grant Avery said. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. "I'll show you, but you'd better be ready." Queen Scifi lowered her head, as if bowing. The wind howled louder, carrying the first hints of a coming storm. Behind them, the mining dome lights flickered on in the gathering darkness. On this frozen moon far from Earth, a human and an alien queen had just made a promise, and nothing in the stars would ever be the same again. After the crash, the people of Enceladus colony could not stop talking. Some called it a miracle. Others called it madness. But one thing was clear. The alien queen was here, and she wanted something only humans could give her. Commander Grant Avery stood in the colony's main meeting hall. It was a large dome, warm inside but still smelling of metal and recycled air. Around him sat the council, 6 men and women who made the big decisions for the miners, engineers, and scientists who lived here so far from Earth. In the middle of the hall, under the bright lights, Queen Scifi stood tall and silent. She did not wear armor now, only a thick cloak that hid her insect-like body. Her golden eyes watched the humans, studying every movement and word. One of the council members, a woman named Dr. Sarah Kim, spoke first. Her voice was sharp. "Why should we help her, Grant? She brings danger here. Her enemies might come for her, and for us." Avery looked at Scifi. She did not flinch or look away. He turned back to the council. "She did not threaten us. She asked for help, and she offers something in return." Sarah crossed her arms. "What stories? Old alien legends about humans with swords?" Scifi stepped forward. Her voice was slow but clear. "Not just stories. I offer knowledge, technology, power." She lifted one hand. Small lights glowed under her claws. The humans leaned closer as a tiny hologram flickered into the air. It showed a map of stars, hundreds of points of light connected by thin lines. "This," Scifi said, "is Scifi Dominion star chart. Hidden wormholes, short paths, places no human ship has ever gone." She closed her hand, and the lights vanished. Then she lifted her other hand. This time, a small, flickering image of a strange device appeared, a cube, glowing softly with blue light. "Fusion core," she said. "Clean energy, small, strong. One of these can power your dome for many seasons." The room fell silent. Dr. Kim's eyes widened. She whispered, "If she's telling the truth, that's worth more than gold." Avery nodded. He stepped closer to Zeleri. "Why do you want the sword? Why not just use your ships and your weapons to fight your own people?" Zeleri looked down at the floor for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. "Srafid. Respect power, strength. We grow big ships, big guns. But my people forget the old ways. Close fight, honor fight. The sword is symbol. You're kind. You fight with mind and heart, not just big gun. If I learn this, I can show my people. Win back throne." Avery understood now. She did not only want a weapon. She wanted to learn what made humans different. The courage to fight even when the enemy was bigger. The will to stand alone with nothing but a blade. He turned to the council. "If we help her, we gain technology that will keep this colony alive for years. We need power. We need new star routes. If we say no, we stay alone, and her enemies might come anyway." Sarah frowned. "And if we say yes, we risk becoming part of her war." Zeleri stepped forward again. "No, I do not bring war here. I leave when ready. My enemies do not know this place yet. If you help me, I promise to protect this colony as my own." Avery studied her face. He believed her. She had fled her own empire to stand in front of strangers and ask for help. Not as a conqueror, but as a student. Finally, the oldest council member, Mr. Hassan, spoke. His voice was low but steady. "We vote." One by one, the council raised their hands, for yes, two for no. The decision was made. Avery nodded at Zeleri. "We help you, but you follow our rules. No hidden weapons, no secrets." Zeleri bent her head in a small bow. "Agreed." The next morning, training began. Avery led Zeleri to an old storage dome. Inside, lights flickered on, showing a wide, empty space with metal walls and crates stacked along the sides. It was cold, but warmer than the snow outside. Avery picked up a wooden practice sword from a crate. He turned to Zeleri and held it out. "Steel is too dangerous for now. You learn with this first." Zeleri took the wooden blade in her lower right hand. She swung it slowly through the air, testing the weight. The sword wobbled in her grip. Her claws were not made for human hilts. Avery stepped closer. "Hold it like this." He placed his hands around hers, showing her how to grip the hilt with strength, but not stiffness. Zeleri's golden eyes studied his hands. She tried again, this time swinging smoother. The blade cut the air with a soft whoosh. "Better," Avery said. He stepped back, lifting his own wooden sword. He showed her a simple guard position, feet apart. Blade up, body turned sideways. "Now, you stand like this. Balance is everything." Zeleri copied him. Her extra limbs shifted behind her, helping her stay steady. She moved slow but careful. Avery smiled a little. "Good. Now, strike." She swung the blade. It was clumsy but strong. The wooden sword hit his own blade with a crack. Avery pushed back, testing her balance. She stumbled but did not fall. They tried again and again, each swing, each block, each step. Zeleri learned fast. She never complained, never rested. Even when her arms trembled from holding the blade too long, hours passed. The lights inside the dome glowed yellow as the day turned to night outside. Finally, Avery lowered his sword. Enough for today. Zeleri stood straight. Her shoulders rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. She looked at the wooden sword in her claws. "Thank you," she said. Her English was still broken, but the words felt stronger now. "One day, I fight better." Avery nodded. He knew she meant it, and deep inside, he felt something strange, hope. Maybe teaching her this human way of fighting would do more than help her win back a throne. Maybe it would remind the humans here that they were stronger than they knew. Too, outside, snow fell on the domes and ships. Inside the training hall, the alien queen and the human commander stood side by side. To fighters from different worlds, bound now by a simple blade and a dangerous promise, tomorrow, the real lessons would begin. Snow drifted past the thick glass windows of the training dome. Inside, the air was warm. but the cold metal floor made every step echo like a drumbeat. Commander Grant Avery stood in the center, watching Queen Zalari circle him with her wooden sword. It had been 3 days since the council voted to help her every day. Zalari woke at first light and waited by the training dome's door before Avery even arrived. She spoke little, but her eyes spoke for her, full of fire, never turning away from the blade or the lesson. Again, Avery said. Zalari charged forward. She swung her sword in a wide arc. Avery blocked it easily. Wood cracked on wood. He stepped aside, tapping her shoulder with the flat of his blade. "Too wide," he said. "If you swing too big, your enemy sees you coming." Zalari took a deep breath. Her golden eyes narrowed. She stepped back, lifted her sword into guard position, and waited. Avery raised his own blade. He struck first, a fast jab at her side. This time, she blocked it. The wooden swords clashed, and she pushed forward, forcing him to step back. "Good," he said. "Better balance." Zalari did not smile, but the tips of her mandibles twitched, a sign that Avery now understood. Meant she was pleased. They trained for hours, pausing only for water. Zalari never showed weakness, even when her lower arms shook with exhaustion. She did not ask to stop. Sometimes young miners and engineers came to watch through the clear panels. They whispered to each other, amazed to see their commander training. An alien queen like she was just another soldier. After training, Avery led Zalari to the colony's small dining hall. She sat alone at a corner table. She could not eat human food, so she carried her own supply, nutrient paste in strange tubes that smelled of sweet resin. Avery sat across from her, eating a hot meal of rice and dried vegetables. The steam rose around them, fogging the window. Next to their table, "Why a sword?" he asked suddenly. "You could ask for guns. We have rifles, grenades, drones. Why not learn those?" Zalari pressed her claws against the table. "Guns, easy. Any straw feed is gun. Big weapon shows power. Yes, but close blade shows courage. Sword means you stand alone. No hiding." She looked at him, her golden eyes soft for once. "My people forgot this. They hide behind big ships, big walls. I want to show them. Old way is strong way." Avery chewed his food, thinking about her words. "So you really think a blade can change an empire?" Zalari tilted her head. "Not just blade. The one who holds it. I hold sword. I show I learn from humans. Some will follow me. Some will fear me." She tapped the table lightly with one claw. "You fight with heart. That is why I came." Avery looked down at his empty plate. No one had ever called him a teacher of courage. Before, he was just a soldier, now commander trying to keep a cold outpost alive. But deep inside, a part of him felt proud. That night, as the artificial lights dimmed across the colony, Avery stood alone in the command center. The big screen showed weather data, oxygen levels, and power grids. Everything seemed normal, except for one blinking red light. Avery tapped it. A message opened. It was a short scan from the orbital satellite, an unknown ship, far away, but moving closer. Too small to be a supply freighter, too fast to be space junk. His second in command, Ellis, walked in and saw the screen. "Another ship?" he asked quietly. Avery nodded. "Could be pirates, could be hers." Ellis frowned. "You trust her, Commander?" Avery looked at the snow drifting past the window. He remembered Zalari's eyes when she first knelt with the sword. "I trust her wish to fight," he said at last, "but I don't trust her enemies." The next morning, training was different. Avery gave Zalari a real sword this time, short, sharp, forged from old earth steel, balanced perfectly for her grip. When she held it, the cold blade gleamed under the training dome's bright lights. Zalari turned it slowly in her claws, studying the edge. "Not wood now," Avery said. "This blade doesn't forgive mistakes." Zalari nodded. She lifted the sword into guard position. Her stance was strong, feet planted wide, back limbs adjusting for balance. "Today you learn control," Avery said. They circled each other. The sound of their boots on the metal floor echoed like distant drums. Avery struck first. A quick slash at her shoulder. She blocked. Sparks flew where metal met metal. Again. And again, Zalari struck back. Her swings were faster now, more precise. Avery blocked them all but felt her strength in each blow. She was learning not only to fight but to think, when to step back, when to push forward, when to wait. At one point, she spun too far and nearly slipped. Avery grabbed her arm and steadied her. "Keep your feet under you," he said. Sword fighting is not only about the blade, it's about standing when you want to fall. Solari's eyes flickered. She stepped back into position, stand, when want to fall. She repeated. Hours later, they stopped. Solari sat on the floor, sword across her knees. She touched the blade's edge carefully. "Your people are strong," she said softly. "Not only big ships, but strong here." She tapped her chest. Avery sat next to her. "You're learning fast, but remember, strength is not just power. It's knowing when to hold back." Solari turned her golden eyes to him. "And you, Grant Avery, what do you fight for?" Avery looked at the steel blade in her claws. He thought of Earth, broken by too many wars. He thought of Enceladus, a cold home built by people who refuse to give up. "I fight for people who still believe we can build something better," he said. Solari nodded. She did not smile, but her mandibles twitched. "Then we same." Outside, snow fell again, covering the crashed alien ship in white. Far above, in the darkness of space, the unknown vessel moved closer, a silent shadow bringing secrets with it inside the dome. The human and the alien queen rested for a moment, too. Warriors sharing warmth on a frozen world. Tomorrow, the lessons would continue, and soon, the fight would come for them both. The next morning came heavy with silence. Outside the domes, the snowstorm had slowed, but the sky was still a blanket of gray. Inside the command center, Commander Grant Avery stood with his arms crossed, eyes locked on the main screen. The unknown ship was closer now, close enough that the colony's sensors tracked every move. It did not answer hails. It did not send warnings. It just drifted nearer, like a hungry shark under dark water. Ellis, his second in command, tapped on a panel. No ID. No reply. "But look, it's slowing down." Avery's jaw tightened. "They're watching, waiting for something." Ellis lowered his voice. "You think it's raw feed?" Avery glanced at the training dome feed on another screen. Solari was there already, alone, swinging her steel blade through the air again and again. Every motion was sharp, focused, unbroken. "If it is," Avery said, "they're not here for us. They're here for her." He walked across the snowy yard to the training dome. He didn't bother wiping the snow from his shoulders. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of oil from the crates of old tools stacked along the walls. Solari didn't stop when he entered. She finished her swing, spun, and stopped the blade an inch from his chest. Her golden eyes narrowed until she saw it was him. Avery raised an eyebrow. "Good form. But next time, wait before you swing at your teacher." Solari lowered the sword. "You come early. Lesson not start yet." He smiled faintly. "Lesson starts when danger does. And danger is almost here." He told her about the ship. She listened without blinking, claws resting on the sword's hilt. "They follow me," she said quietly when he finished. "They fear what I learn here." Avery studied her face. "If they attack, we'll fight, but you need to be ready. A sword is good, but it won't stop a plasma blast." Solari turned away, looking at her reflection in the polished metal wall. "Then I fight before they shoot." Close, silent, she turned back to him, blade at her side. "You trust me, Grant Avery?" He did not answer right away. He thought of his people, the cold outside, the long nights they survived with little more than faith in each other. "I trust what you're trying to become," he said finally. "But my people come first." Solari lowered her head in a small bow. "As they should." By nightfall, the ship was almost in range. The miners and engineers gathered inside the big dome that doubled as a meeting hall and emergency shelter. Families huddled together, speaking in low voices. No one shouted. Fear made people quiet here. Avery stood in front of them, Ellis beside him, Solari a step behind. He explained what they knew. An unknown ship, no response, possible threat. He promised them they were ready, even though deep inside, He knew they were not. They had old rifles. A few drones, basic defense turrets, good for stopping pirates, maybe. But if the ship above was a Scifi scout, they would need more than metal walls and laser turrets. They would need every ounce of courage they had left. When Avery finished, a young mechanic raised his hand. "What about her?" he asked, pointing at Zeleri. "Is she the reason they're here?" Zeleri stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "Yes, they follow me. I left my throne. They want me dead, so I cannot return." Murmurs rose round the hall. Some people looked angry. Some looked afraid. Avery lifted a hand for silence. "She's here under our protection. If they want her, they'll have to go through all of us," someone near the back whispered. "Why should we die for her fight?" Before Avery could speak, Zeleri did. She held up her sword, the blade catching the hall's pale light. "You do not fight for me," she said. "I fight for you. They come here. They think you weak. I show them you are not." She stepped forward, sweeping her golden eyes across the crowd. "I promise this. No enemy touches your children, your homes, while I stand. That is my word as queen." The people fell silent again. Avery could feel it, the fear still there, but mixed now with something else. Maybe not trust yet, but maybe the start of it. Late that night, Avery and Zeleri stood on the colony's frozen landing pad. Above them, the dark shape of the ship hovered low, engines humming softly. It looked like a giant insect, black, sleek, no lights to give it warmth or welcome. A voice finally came through the colony's speakers, cold and sharp. "Scifi traitor, come outside, come alone." Zeleri stepped forward, sword in hand. Avery put out a hand to stop her. "You don't know what's waiting out there. It could be a trap." Zeleri looked at him. "If I hide, they attack Dome. Many die. If I stand, maybe only I die." Avery grabbed her arm. "You are not alone anymore. We stand together." She looked down at his hand on her arm, then back at his eyes. Slowly, she placed her free claw over his wrist. "Then we stand together." They moved across the snow, out past the domes, edge where the big landing lights made long shadows on the ice round them. Hidden behind crates and digger machines, a handful of miners and engineers waited with old rifles. Just in case, the ship opened its lower hatch. Cold wind spilled out, carrying the hiss of alien words Avery could not understand. Then 3 Scifi soldiers stepped down. They looked like Zeleri, but taller, heavier, and wrapped in dark armor that glowed faintly. The tallest one stepped forward. His helmet opened just enough to show black eyes and sharp mandibles. He spoke in broken human words. "Queen Zeleri, return. No fight, no blood." Zeleri stood tall, sword resting on her shoulder. "I will not return in chains." The Scifi hissed, "Then you die here." He raised his claw, and the other soldiers lifted long plasma rifles. Avery felt every muscle in his body tense. He knew they were outgunned. One shot could melt through steel. But Zeleri moved first. She stepped forward, blade flashing under the landing lights. Her claws gripped the hilt tight. Her voice was strong, enough to cut the cold. "You want my life," she shouted. "Come take it." The night held its breath. The snow fell in soft flakes round the sharp steel, and somewhere deep inside the dome, the people of Enceladus Colony waited to see if courage alone could stand against the dark. Snow swirled around the landing pad, carried by a cold wind that made every sound sharper. Commander Grant Avery felt his breath freeze on his lips as he stood beside Zeleri. The Scifi soldiers faced them only 20 steps away. Their black armor reflected the landing lights like dark mirrors. Their plasma rifles hummed softly, ready to fire. Avery held his old rifle low but tight against his shoulder. He knew if the Scifi's opened fire, their weapons would melt through human steel like butter. His only chance was surprise, and Zeleri, Queen Zeleri, stood half a step ahead of him. Her claws gripped her sword so tight that small flakes of snow melted where her warm blood touched the cold metal hilt. She did not shiver. She did not blink. Her golden eyes were locked on the leader of the Scifi's. "Last chance," the tall Scifi hissed. His voice cut through the wind like a blade. "Come back, Queen Zeleri. No fight, No shame. Zeleri lifted her sword and pointed it at him. I am done hiding behind walls, she said. I will fight you here, in front of the humans you fear. Behind the supply crates, the hidden miners and engineers watched with wide eyes. Ellis, crouched near a snow digger, held up 3 fingers to the team. On his signal, they would fire if things went wrong. Avery stepped closer to Zeleri and whispered, "Stay close." We moved together. Zeleri did not look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on her enemies. No. Grant Avery, you protect your people. I draw them away. Before he could argue, she moved. Zeleri dashed forward like a sudden wind. Snow exploded under her feet. The Scifi leader shouted a command, and the soldiers raised their plasma rifles. But Zeleri was already inside their range. Her sword flashed, striking the barrel of the first rifle. Sparks flew as her blade cut the weapon in half. A hiss of broken circuits filled the air. Avery lifted his rifle and fired at the second soldier. The shot struck the Scifi's shoulder, making him stumble. It did not kill him. The armor was strong, but it gave Zeleri time. She spun, swinging her sword low, cutting at the legs of the second soldier. The Scifi fell with a roar, his plasma rifle sliding across the snow. The third soldier fired. A blast of blue plasma zipped past Zeleri's head and struck a crate behind her, melting metal and spraying steam into the cold air. Zeleri ducked, rolled forward, and came up under the soldier's guard. Her sword slipped between armor plates with a sharp hiss. The soldier fell. For a second, everything was silent except for the sound of falling snow and the hum of the enemy ship overhead. The leader stepped back. His black eyes flicked from Zeleri to Avery, then to the shadows where the hidden miners waited. He hissed an order in Scifi language. The ship above opened a side hatch and dropped a metal pod onto them. Snow. The pod hissed and cracked open like an egg. More Scifi's climbed out, 6 of them, all armored. All armed, they formed a half circle around Zeleri and Avery. Avery's heart sank. He knew they couldn't win this fight with bullets alone. Zeleri lifted her sword again, breathing hard but standing tall. She looked at Avery and gave a small nod, a sign to trust her. Then she did something Avery did not expect. She shouted at the Scifi's in her own language, a voice so sharp and clear that the soldiers froze for a moment. She slammed the tip of her sword into the frozen ground, then lifted her claws high. "You come to chain me," she roared. "But I am your queen. See what I have learned. See that I fight beside humans, not behind you." The Scifi's hesitated. One of them lowered his rifle slightly. He looked at the leader, waiting for an order. Doubt flickered in his black eyes. Avery saw it, the tiny crack in their wall of obedience. He leaned close to Zeleri. "Keep talking," he whispered. "Break them." Zeleri stepped forward, claws still lifted, voice calm but sharp like her blade. "You follow him because you fear him. But I hold the old blade, the blade that means courage. Who stands with me?" For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the Scifi who lowered his rifle took one step forward. His claws twitched on his weapons. Grip, but he did not aim it at Zeleri. The leader saw this and hissed, "Traitor!" He screamed at his own soldier. He lifted his plasma pistol and aimed at the one who dared to move. But the new soldier swung his rifle, knocking the leader's pistol aside. A shot fired, striking the snow. The other soldiers turned, confused and afraid. Who should they obey? Their old commander or the queen who now stood unbroken before them? Avery saw his chance. He shouted into his comm link. Now, from behind the crates, the hidden miners opened fire. Old rifles cracked. Sparks flew as bullets struck Scifi armor. The digger machines rumbled forward, their headlights blinding in the snow. The Scifi's turned to fire back, but they were disorganized now, split between loyalty and fear. The one who stood with Zeleri roared something in Scifi tongue, then tackled another soldier to the ground. Zeleri pulled her sword from the frozen ground and charged again. Avery followed, rifle blazing. He saw her cut down another Scifi, her blade moving faster than his eyes could follow. Every swing was clean, every move exactly as he had taught her. A plasma blast struck near Avery's leg, burning through his coat but missing his flesh. He dove behind the supply crate, reloaded, and fired back. Ellis and 2 miners dragged one of the enemy soldiers down, tearing the rifle from his claws and knocking him out cold. The leader screamed in rage. He raised his pistol and aimed at Larry's back. Avery saw it, and without thinking, he leaped from cover, tackling the Scifi leader to the ground. They rolled in the snow, fighting hand to claw. The Scifi's mandibles clicked inches from Avery's face. Before the leader could overpower him, Larry's shadow fell over them. Her sword came down, striking the ice near the leader's head. She did not kill him, but her golden eyes burned so bright that the leader froze. Knowing he was beaten, the landing pad fell silent. The last loyal Scifi's dropped their rifles, raising their claws in surrender. The miners stepped out of hiding, their breath forming clouds in the cold air. Ellis limped to Avery's side and helped him stand. Larry stood over the defeated Scifi leader. She did not smile. She lifted her sword high for all to see, humans and Scifi's alike. "This is my blade," she shouted. "This is my courage. Who stands with me now?" In that frozen moment, under the swirling snow, both humans and Scifi stared at the queen who came with a sword and used it. The snowstorm was gone by morning, leaving Enceladus colony quiet under a clear, dark sky. Small fires burned in metal barrels on the landing pad. They gave off weak heat, but it was enough to keep the people warm as they gathered. Larry stood in the middle of them, her sword resting point down in the snow. Around her were the humans of the colony, miners, engineers, families, and the Scifi soldiers who had thrown down their weapons the night before. Commander Grant Avery stood beside her, bruises on his face from the fight, but his eyes clear and sharp. He had not slept, neither had Larry. Ellis and a few miners kept watch over the Scifi leader. He sat on the snow, hands bound by metal cables. He hissed when humans got too close but did not speak a word. Larry lifted her eyes to the people around her. They waited in silence, waiting for her to speak. She felt the weight of the sword in her claws, heavy, but not as heavy as the promise she carried now. She spoke slowly, so every human could understand. "I came here with a sword because my people forgot what a sword means," she said. Her voice was calm but strong enough to echo off the metal walls. "To the Scifi, a sword is only for power, to take, to control." She lifted the blade, showing its edge to the dawn sky. "You humans taught me something better. A sword is not just for war. It is for standing together, for protecting those who stand beside you." She looked at Avery, then at the miners who had fought beside her. Some of them nodded. Some only stared, but none turned away. "I have no throne in the sky now," Larry said. "I have this place. I have you." One of the Scifi soldiers stepped forward, the one who had helped her in the fight. He dropped to one knee in front of her. His voice rasped with old fear as he spoke in Scifi tongue. Larry translated for the humans. He says, "Where you stand, I stand. Where you fight, I fight." Avery stepped forward, snow crunching under his boots. He looked at the kneeling Scifi. Then at Larry. "You're sure about this?" he asked her in a low voice. Larry's golden eyes met his. "If I leave, they hunt me forever. If I stay and hide, you suffer. But if I stand here, strong, with you, they think twice before they return." Avery rubbed his chin, feeling the cut there from the fight. "So we teach them to be afraid of us, too?" Larry nodded. Together, he looked at the people around them, tired faces, bruised arms, patched jackets, people who had left Earth to find hope in the ice and stars. They had found danger instead. But maybe they had found something else too, a reason to fight for each other. Avery turned to the people. The Scifi's might come again, or they might not. But if they do, they'll find more than miners here. They'll find people ready to stand. We protect each other, and our queen stands with us. The word queen made a few people stir. Some looked unsure, but others smiled, tired, small smiles, but real ones. Avery turned back to the captured Scifi leader. He stepped closer until he could see the reflection of the rising sun in the alien's black eyes. "You have a message for your masters?" Avery asked. The Scifi only hissed. Solari stepped beside him. She lowered her face until her golden eyes were level with the leaders. "Tell them this," she said coldly. "Your queen does not kneel. She stands with humans now. If they come again, they find a blade waiting." The leader did not answer. He just looked away. By midday, the humans gathered old supplies to fix the damage from the fight. The burned crates were cleared, broken machines pushed aside. The young miners helped the Scifi soldiers who had stayed loyal to Solari. Together, they stacked metal plates to build better defenses around the landing pad. Ellis walked past Avery with an armful of metal sheets. "You ever think we'd be doing repairs with Scifi's?" he asked with a grin. Avery snorted. "No, but I've seen stranger things now." He looked across the landing yard. Solari was teaching 3 human kids how to hold her sword. The blade was too big for them, but she guided their small hands carefully, her claws gentle. The children laughed when they nearly dropped it, but she caught it every time. "She's not leaving, is she?" Ellis asked. Avery shook his head. "She's one of us now, or maybe we're one of her." That night, the colony lights glowed warm against the cold dark. The people gathered in the big dome, the same place where they had once questioned why they should risk their lives for an alien queen. Now they sat together on metal benches, drinking weak tea, telling each other stories about the fight. Solari stood near the main door, her sword leaning against the wall. A small girl tugged on her cloak. "Will you teach me to?" the girl asked, voice shy but eyes bright. Solari lowered herself to the girl's level. "Yes, when you are ready to be brave." "Are you scared?" the girl asked. Solari thought for a moment. She looked at Avery, who stood beside the heater, talking with Ellis about repair plans and old stories from Earth. She looked at the families who now shared food with the Scifi's who had stayed behind. "I am not scared," she told the girl softly, "because I do not stand alone." When the night grew quiet and the people drifted to sleep, Avery stepped outside. The ice field stretched far and wide under the pale light of distant stars. He found Solari standing there, sword in hand, staring at the sky where her old ship had come from. He stepped beside her. For a moment, they stood in silence, the cold wind brushing against their faces. "Do you think they'll come back?" Avery asked. Solari did not look away from the stars. "They will. One day. Power always wants what it cannot have." Avery nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready." She turned to him. "Show me more." "More." Avery raised an eyebrow. "More. Ways to stand. More ways to protect." She lifted her sword a little, the blade shining under the starlight. "A sword is not enough alone." Avery grinned. "All right then. Tomorrow. We start early. Guns, shields, drills, everything. And we'll teach them to." He nodded at the colony behind them. Solari gave a soft, tired laugh, something he had never heard from her before. "Good," she said. "Then let them come. We will stand." And so, under the frozen sky of a distant moon, a queen and a human commander stood side by side. To blades, one promise. The snow fell silent and soft around them, but inside their hearts burned a fire too strong for the cold to ever touch again.